Today's car of choice is the NIO ET7 in all its grayness, which is an interesting proposition because NIO is going after Audi and Mercedes with a premium proposition. My name is Peter, and in this video we're having a look at this NIO and seeing if that is true or not. Well, it's certainly true here at the front because it starts with solid design, cool daytime running lights with dual LED beams here for at night, so that's kind of cool. And I think the look of the car from the front is quite imposing. It's a 2 meter plus wide car, 2 meter 20 with the mirrors out even, 5 meters plus long, so it's a big car. But I think here at the front, if you see this coming in your rearview mirror, it's a car that looks like it means business, so that's kind of cool. Here at the front, also the first signs of a technology fest, so you will. The first camera is down here, traditional parking sensors as well. Then we have two more cameras up here in the windshield here. Above that we have a LiDAR sensor and we have two cameras here on the side, and that is just the front of the car. So NIO uses a lot of technology, a lot of sensors, a lot of things, obviously for things like parking, but also the cruise control, self-driving features in the future. All the hardware is already available and they can always play with the software to enhance that even further. Coming around the car, more than 2 meters wide, 21-inch wheels to complement that with some Brembo brakes behind it. And you're probably wondering, why does a car this size need Brembo brakes? Well, it is electric, so it has high horsepower, 653 to be exact, with 850 newton meters of torque. So it's a pretty potent combination, and all that speed has to be stopped at some point as well, hence the 4-pot Brembos here. One more camera, another camera, so the technology continues here on the side. More than 5 meters long, very streamlined look. It looks a bit like an Audi RS7, but more streamlined. The door handles here are flush. Unless you touch them, then they come out to greet you, so you can actually open the door. And the whole profile of the car is very sleek. It has a drag coefficient of 0.21, so that's excellent. Great for aerodynamics and therefore great for your battery efficiency. Coming down the car, yeah, you can see with the privacy glass here and the length, the sheer size of the car, that this car also lends itself to be chauffeur driven, as we'll see inside later too. There's a lot of space in the interior. And overall it looks nice without looking menacing. I think if you get this in black, you really get a menacing look, but with this grey, it's sort of, I wouldn't go as far as to say that it feels cuddly, but it's certainly a bit more approachable. Here on the back, you can really see that droplet shape for that good aerodynamics with yet another camera up here, and there's another one down here. So yeah, overload in sensors, so you will. I really like this light bar here in the back. It looks very sleek, it looks very modern, and it fits the whole theme of the design very well, I think. When we look in the boot, not that big, but very usable. Obviously the shape of the car dictates the shape of the boot, so this opening is your limiting factor. You're certainly not going to fit a washing machine in here, but as you can see, it is relatively deep, and there is also a nice ski hatch available. Overall, I really like the design of this car. It's very sleek, it's very elegant, without being too shouty about itself. It's a car that looks understated maybe, that you won't expect that it's as powerful as it is. Very much the bigger brother of the ET5 that we drove on the Dutch channel a couple of videos ago. That was already like a nice, very well put together car with a lot of power. This really is a step above in terms of power, performance, and also space inside. So sitting here in the cockpit of the NIO ET7, I'm going to give you a little tour. It's all vegan leather and sustainable materials in here, so for the enthusiasts among us, that's fantastic. This is a sort of grayish, brownish spec with some blackish wood. Looks quite elegant, very minimalistic. That is of course design, but it is, let's be honest, a cost-saving measure. Because as soon as you put a button somewhere, it's there for life, and as soon as you put a symbol on something, it's also only usable for that one thing. So we can see that here in the center, there's nothing here really to press on except for the driving modes, the alarm lights, and your lock button and the gear selector. And it's the same thing here on the steering wheel. You got two joysticks, but those are undefined buttons, which means they can be remapped into infinity, which is all great. It's software solutions that you can have that you can't do as soon as you put a physical button somewhere. So, you know, it has a lot of benefits, it's great, but when brands say that it is modern design, no, it's cost saving for sure. There's no cheap feelings in here though, so I say cost saving as far as the buttons go, but it never feels cheap in here. All the materials feel nice, everything you'll touch feels pleasant. And it needs to be, because NIO says they want to compete with Mercedes and Audi, and you know that has a level of quality that comes with the price of the car. So NIO needs to match that if they want to compete, and they do. It is a really nice place to be in here. To give you a little tour, we got some click things here for the window, and we have a button here for the door. So if there's no door latch or handle or anything, I have to press this and we open. So that's nice, double glass, and in front of me I have a small driver's display, a bit like a letterbox, of course with my vehicle, state of charge, navigation if you want to, and a few other things. You can obviously set that up the way you prefer. Some traditional stalks here behind the steering wheel for your wipers and for your lights, so that's pretty sweet too. And then the whole experience is dominated by the screen here in the middle. Without any buttons, you got to do everything in the screen. You can be very mad about that, you can be very sad about that, but it is nicely done. So there's nothing here to swipe or do, but for example, if I want to change the temperature in the car, I need to do that here on the bottom and start swiping. And if I want to be a bit more sophisticated with my ventilation, I can go here and I can go completely crazy. Because obviously, I'll turn that off for the sound, there's no, you can see here, there's no vents or anything that I can manually adjust. It's all done here in the screen. Now, to make that a bit easier, we got Nomi up there. Nomi is our robot digital assistant. Hey Nomi.
Hello.
Can you say hi to the audience?
Hey audience. Hi there.
So that's your assistant, and you can ask her to do anything from change the seat heating to your massage settings to the climate control and so on. And it works pretty well because it's all in-house software, so it's all integrated nicely with each other, and there's very little lag. But it's a typical problem with speech-driven assistants, that if you stutter or if your sentence stops halfway or if your kid interrupts you, then the command doesn't come through and you got to start all over again. It's certainly not better than an actual button, because, you know, a button, you grab, you turn, you twist, and the temperature changes. It's simple, it's efficient, it costs 0 time, and now I have to go, you know, have a discussion with my dashboard. But I have to say, as far as integration goes, it works quite well. Now, something that works really well here in the screen is the car menu. And you can see that we have the actual car that we have on the outside. The big Volkswagens and Fords and General Motors groups of the world cannot get this done, but NIO says, hold on, hold my beer, let me put the car that you actually have here on the screen. That makes me really happy. It's such a pet peeve of mine that if you have a blue car, it shows up here as a green car or a white car. It's horrible. And the good part is that, I mean, all the sensors in the car are there anyway, and NIO actually uses them. So if I open the door on the screen actually opens as well. So that is sweet. And if I turn on the lights, you can see the lights here on the car turn on as well. Simple little things, but I like these touches that's been thought through. So that's cool. And yeah, the screen in general, I have to say, it works really well. It's all very thought through because the in-house software is so integrated, well integrated with the car. It's very nice to work with. The big absence here is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, simply not available. NIO says, no, we don't want that kind of software in our cars. We want to do everything ourselves. We can do it better. Fair enough, fair statement, and from what I've seen, it is really nice to work with. Renault, for example, takes this opposite approach that says, no, we want full, deep Google integration because we do not want to do that kind of development. Both work, and I think in this case, it's a good example of how well it can work if the company does it properly. To finish the tour through the cabin, here in the middle, we got, like I already said, we have the drive mode button, we have the alarm lights and the lock button, and we have the gear selector here. The park button is on this side. Here on the right, we have 2 cup holders with not much adjustability, but there is some rubber here for keeping your bottle in place. And here in the middle, spot for your phone, and the key of the NIO ET7 is just a bank card. But if you own this car, you probably connect your phone to it and unlock it that way. If you go below, there is a giant collection bin for everything. Now, we got a phone here now and a box for the keys. So, you know, easy to throw stuff in there. The thing is that it is smooth on the bottom, so stuff will move around. There's no dividers or anything in there. So that's something to consider. Then here in the middle armrest, we have a bin that opens 2 ways. Nice solution, so you don't have to do this and end up with a giant hole in there. So nice bit of storage here for all your bits and bobs. And we have a nice panoramic roof in 2 sections. The only thing is that there's no cover and there's no photochromic glass. So this is what it is all the time. Overall, it's a very nice place to be. It's certainly comfortable here. The seats are very nice, 15-way adjustable, massaging, cooling, seat heating, the whole thing. So it's pretty easy to find a good spot, a good position to sit in. And overall, your view over the outside of the car is also quite nice. It's easy to recognize where the car is, despite the fact that the car is so wide. But overall, it's a pleasant place to be, and it's not intimidating to drive despite its size. So that's good too. Now, for the enthusiasts among us, a little look into the sound system. If I go to car, I can go to geluid, which means sound in Dutch, and I have some settings here. There is a surround modus here that I can tune from driver focused to front focused to rear focused and the whole thing. So that's quite nice. You can select where your sound is coming from. If we go a little deeper, we have an equalizer. If you are into that kind of stuff, you can set up the equalizer any way you prefer. If this is a bit too complicated, there's also a quick setting with only 4 things: treble, mid, bass, and ultra. So enough adjustments for your non-audiophiles, I'd say, to have your blistering techno tunes pumping through the whole stereo system. And you can see the speakers here and around the whole car and down there. The sound system is actually quite good. I don't know which brand it is, to be honest, but it is the sound is good. It's pure enough that even above 75% volume, it sounds quite nice. So no worries here in terms of bad sound. And because the car is so quiet in general, thanks to the double glass, it's actually a pleasant place to enjoy your tunes as well. Yes, driving the NIO ET7 is quite an experience, and I mean that in a very good way. It is a large vehicle, obviously, and that is something you notice when you have to start maneuvering in tight spaces like parking garages and such, so there's no way around that. But as soon as you're in the car, it doesn't feel enormous, like unovercomably big. So it's actually quite pleasant to be in here and drive this car around. I'm currently in comfort mode, which makes everything extremely soft and supple and easy to do. And I think that's the mode you'll use most of the time, because it pretty much reduces your power to, I don't know exactly what the level is, but to a very manageable, pleasant level of performance. Obviously, when you put this in Sport Plus, it's quite the rocket ship, because then you do 0 to 60 or 100 kilometers an hour in under 4 seconds. And for a car this size and this weight, that is fast, full stop. There's not many cars on the road that are going to beat you at the traffic light, let alone while you're driving. So that's, it's a fun thing to play with every once in a while, and certainly fun at traffic lights here and there to show people how fast you are. But in real life, in real world scenarios, you'll have it in comfort most of the time. It's what I had it on most of the time for the week that I had this car. Overall, the driving experience is very nice. The visibility is excellent, as you can see. There's a lot of glass in front of you and on the side, so it's easy to look around. That cannot be said for the back. If the camerawoman can show you what I can see in my rearview mirror, it's not a lot. Let's be honest, it's a letterbox that you're seeing through. It is a wide rear window, which is nice, but it is quite high and also not very, the window pane itself is very flat, so you can't see that much out of there. Luckily, with all the cameras, you have plenty of possibilities to compensate that and at least see what you're doing, so that's okay. And overall, yeah, the visibility is great. Like, I have no issue placing this car anywhere or navigating through roadworks and those kind of things. So that's actually quite nice. And the controls on the steering wheel, they work intuitively, and it's just an overall great way to navigate through traffic with this car. It doesn't really matter if it's long distance or short. The benefits of that electric drivetrain in and around town are great. It's quiet, it's comfortable. There's more than enough performance when you want to. It's just nice. And then when you take it on the highway, that extra bit of performance is always available for your overtakes and for your, getting onto the highway and getting off. So it's overall just all very pleasant. What is slightly less pleasant is the brake feel. I mean, in the end, they do stop. They are pretty significant Brembo brakes, so, there's performance to be expected there, and they do, especially in a straight line on a good road. As soon as the asphalt gets a bit worse, or if there's some kind of sand, or if it's slippery, it's not the most confidence-inspiring brake feel, I have to say. I mean, they do stop, and I don't think they're bad brakes, but like the feeling you get doesn't give me a lot of confidence. Obviously, you're not making emergency stops all the time, and when you do a few of the launches in Sport Plus mode, then obviously you got to stop the car again too. So that's when you feel it most. But also, for example, when you have a bit of steering lock in the car, and you have to slow the car down a bit more than you initially might want, then doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. So maybe that's a single point of criticism I have for the overall driving experience. So, rear seats of the NIO ET7, and that is a fantastic experience. It's a big car with a lot of space inside, but it really shows here in the back. I'm 183, about 90 kilos and a bit, and you can see how much space I have here. There's so much volume inside here that it's a really pleasant place to be. This is my driving position, and I sit quite far back, and you can see there's like a full hand of space for my knees. So that is excellent. You're never going to touch the back of this seat. And you don't really want to, because it's not hard plastic, but it is quite a hard back of the seat, so that's not entirely comfortable. But yeah, unless your driver is 2 meters plus tall, he will not sit far back enough to hit your knees. So that is excellent. What is not so excellent is the space underneath the seats. There is none. There's no natural space here. You can see I can't put my feet any further than this under the seat in front of me. So the driver has to raise his seat for me to have space for my feet. It's not the end of the world if the driver is willing to do so. I prefer to sit further down in the car, so it's not a disaster if somebody needs to, but that's the way I prefer to sit. So that is too bad that there's no space for your feet here, because that forces you to always have your feet sort of flat on the ground. The ground itself, though, there's no transmission tunnel or anything here in the middle, so there's more than enough space to move around, even for the middle passenger. So if I sit here, there's so much room for me to move that it is really nice. Now, here in the back, this can certainly be a chauffeur-driven car, because it's a limousine shape, obviously, but there's so much space here back here that you really maybe even want to be chauffeur-driven. And it's also that you have the same creature comforts as in the front as well. So you have seat ventilation, seat heating, seat massaging, all that good stuff that you want on a longer journey. All the stuff can be controlled here in the middle screen. So it's a tiny phone-sized screen that you can use for your seat, for your ventilation, for your music. You can really do anything there. So that's quite nice, so you don't have to bother the people in front for that, or know me for that matter. Now, I'm 183, like I said, and I'm basically touching the roof. So anybody taller than that will probably have a bit of slouching issues that you just simply don't fit. That's just the shape of the car. There's nothing really to be done about it. And obviously you can't adjust this seat up and down any further either. So, if you're above 183, you're going to have issues here. But for me, it is a quite nice place to be. Having a look at the middle console. Super solid, very nice, no features up here, so there's nothing for you to fall into with your elbow or anything. The cup holders are here in the front. So I think that's quite an elegant solution. Then, it's out of the way when you don't need it, but when you do want to, it's nice and up front. And like this, it's also nice to stow away. Obviously, it can open as well. Then we have an additional USB port here, because there's only one over there in the center console. And a place maybe to put some, I don't know, candy, toys, whatever. So, super nice, super simple, elegant, and a good way to travel like this. Even with 2 adults here, no issues whatsoever. My kids love it. You put the seat massage on, put their audiobooks on, and they are good to go for a long journey. What's also nice is the view through the car. Very important for the comfort of the rear passengers, that you can actually see what's happening around you. And this car has a lot of air and a lot of light, obviously, with the panoramic roof. So, you have a nice view through the car. The seats are not super massive, even with people in it. So, it's easy to see what's going on. And it really improves the comfort. So that's also quite nice. Well done. All round, very nice place to be here in the back as well. So obviously we got to do a little bit of highway driving as well, because it's such a large and heavy car and there's so much space in the back that this is, I could imagine, very much a chauffeur-driven car as well. And with the big battery and with all the comfort that's available, it does lend itself very well to be a proper highway cruiser. It is. Currently we're in comfort mode. We're doing 109 kilometers an hour and it is quiet in here. I don't have to raise my voice to talk to you, thanks to the double glazing. I have great visibility all around, and overall it's just a very comfortable place to be. Put the cruise control on automatic, everything, put the suspension and the powertrain in comfort, seat massage, and off to the races. And it's really a car that you can spend a lot of time in without getting tired from the noise or without getting sort of overwhelmed by the driving experience. It's just a nice and pleasant way to cross a big distance. Now the big distance is certainly available. The battery pack is big enough to certainly cover a lot of ground. And thanks to the charging availabilities, you can also charge and top up quickly and be on your way. And even with the NIO power substations, we did a separate video on that. You know, you'll be on the go again in 3 or 4 minutes with a whole fresh battery. So just like any other electric car, really, the driving is no different than you would with a combustion car. You just have to do a little bit of extra planning around your journey and around where you're going and when. So that makes sense. I think the charging infrastructure here in the Netherlands is so good that it doesn't really matter where you're going to go. You always have options. When you do road trips, especially when you go to countries where the infrastructure isn't that good, you know, Southern Europe and so on, once you get off the big main highways, the infrastructure gets a bit worse. So then it requires a bit more thinking and planning, perhaps. But yeah, you have so much capacity available that it's all fine. Now, the driving experience in itself is very relaxing. This is not a car that invites you to act like a hooligan or anything. Like now we're doing 120 and it's just relaxing. It's pleasant. Like, you have good overview of what's happening around you. So it's very nice. That's the word. Obviously, I'm in comfort mode right now with reduced power to extend the range. I can even go to eco mode to do that even further. Sport and Sport Plus are available, but this is not a car that invites you to be a hooligan all the time. But they are available with the press of a button, so that's nice. This is a car that competes in the higher car classes, so think Mercedes, BMW, Audi, and so on. And if you drive a big Mercedes or an RS Audi or anything, I mean, obviously you're not using your horsepower all the time, but it is fun to use every once in a while. Well, it's a very similar experience with this. Cruising like this, you know, you're not thinking about horsepower or newton meters or anything. But every once in a while when you meet somebody in a nice car, you're like, hey, that's fun. And, you know, you can chase each other a little bit or, you know, show how fast your car is and so on. So then it's just 2 pushes of a button away and you have the full power available and you can do those things. But even now in comfort mode, we're doing 115. If I fully press it, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, driver's license gone, 70. It's so easy, it's so smooth. That drivetrain has so much extra performance in reserve. You can do that anytime, any day, any place, really. And with the four-wheel drive, you also have that bit of extra security that even when the road is either not as good as here in the Netherlands, or if it's slippery or cold or wet, then yeah, you also have that traction and that trust in the performance that it can deliver. So nothing to complain about here on the highway. It's so nice, both here in the front and in the back. Like a long drive with my kids, for example, they're more than happy back there. All the comforts obviously back there available as well. And it's just such a nice way to cross distance this way. After a week with this NIO ET7, what do we make of it? I'm pretty impressed, to be honest. This is a car I had no real expectations going in, but driving this and seeing how complete the package is, what it delivers, and what NIO is thinking about for the future, it is very compelling, and they make a very good case for themselves in this premium car segment that they're aiming for. There's not really anything to pick apart for this car. Maybe you can argue that the rear window is not big enough. You can always want more range and more power, obviously, but I think with 650 horsepower on tap, you're more than covered for. The driving experience is great, the power is great, the whole, like, living with this car is great, the whole experience is very nice. And I think what they do here, the technology they're delivering, the package that they're putting together, it is certainly a contender to compete with the Mercedes and the Audis of this world. There's not much to pick apart with this car. The rear window is a bit small, and personally I don't really like the brake feel that much, so, you know, perhaps some tweaks possible there. But overall, it is quite impressive what they do here. So I'm very much looking forward to see what their SUVs are. Those we're certainly going to drive in a different video. But for now, I am taken away with the fact that this is a solid, cool, high-end premium proposition. And I think that's certainly something to be proud of. That's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.